On this edition of City Profile, I'll be talking with Brenda McElroy, first-time City Commissioner. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to City Profile. I'm Tom Butler, and it is my pleasure today, this is our first time together, to introduce to you and to, well, the community knows you because they voted for you, and now you are a first-time City Commissioner in the City of Paducah. But before we get into that stuff, I'd like to know a little bit about you. Tell me about your family and what you like to do and those kind of things.
I would be delighted to. We love Paducah. We've lived here 30 years in June, but I started out in St. Louis. I'm a St. Louisan. I'm a Missouri show-me kind of gal. Big Cardinal fan. Grew up in a wonderful family with 3 siblings. My parents in St. Louis. Went to school down at Southeast Missouri State in Cape Girardeau, where I met my husband. And he is a local Cape Girardeau guy. Played football there, and we met and fell in love immediately, and started our journey together after I graduated from college. I'm a nurse by vocation, and my husband, we left there and went to the University of Missouri, where we spent 10 years as he went to medical school, did a residency in internal medicine, and then a cardiology fellowship. So that whole time he was doing that, I was the nurse at the University of Missouri Hospital and Clinics, and I did everything from floor nurse with OB patients, newborns, and became the head nurse and then a clinical nurse specialist, and did just about everything you can do in OB there, and enjoyed our time in Columbia very much. As that time came to a close, we started looking at communities. Where did we want to live? Where did we raise our family? We had 3 children in our time in Missouri, and we started looking at communities about the size of Paducah, and we looked at about 5 different ones, and Paducah really just grabbed our hearts in terms of the people that we met here, that we really enjoyed and felt like shared a lot of our values. We love outdoors. There were a lot of outdoor activities around here. We love the lakes. We were attracted to the schools. It's a community of faith, a lot of great churches, and it quickly rose to the top. So we moved here in 1989. Quickly had another child, and Brad began his cardiology practice, and I thought about going back to work, but as that 4th baby arrived, I realized somebody was going to have to stabilize the ship and do a lot of driving around Paducah. So
plenty to do.
Yeah, so that's how we kind of ended up here.
Well, that's very interesting, because it seems like most people choose communities because the job's already there, or their family's there or some reason, but you...
Right, we had a lot of great opportunities at that time. There was a great need for cardiologists in a lot of different communities. We didn't want to be in the big city. We were intentional about that. We didn't want to spend a lot of time in traffic. We wanted to have a lot of quality time with our families, and we really recognized that Paducah was a family kind of place, that people kind of took care of each other, and you could walk and be safe. You could walk to, we'd love to be able to walk, ride bikes. There's a lot of opportunity for that. We're active kind of people, and we can get to the big cities. We're so beautifully located between, you know, Louisville, Memphis, Nashville, St. Louis. You can get there, enjoy what's there, and then get back home and not have to deal with the hassles of a big city every day.
Well, that's really cool, because with that experience, that translates into businesses coming to Paducah, and you can literally say, because you did it, we had choices as well, and we chose this community, and these are the reasons why we chose this community.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool. So, from a nurse in Missouri, what motivated you to think, you know, I think I might like to dabble in politics?
Never in my wildest dreams did I think that would be something I would want to do. I have with our children, we kind of immersed ourselves, me particularly, in volunteer work in the city. And Brad and I were involved in St. Nicholas Clinic when it started. We've been involved in, you name the booster club in the Paducah City Schools, we've been in it and probably been in charge of it. PTA, I've been involved in Medical Alliance, been involved in garden clubs. Right now I work every Wednesday at Starfish Orphan Ministries. Really believe in the volunteer force of the city, and it's pretty impressive too. So I got exposed to a lot of people, a lot of opportunities, and actually never had really thought about being involved in politics, because I've never been sitting around thinking, what am I going to do next? I'm a busy person. I stay engaged. But started kind of watching some of the decision making that was being made, and just kind of got thought, is that really representing my voice and my values? Not that it was horrible, although there were some decisions made that I just didn't agree with. And I thought, you know what? If we don't stand up and aren't willing to throw our hat in there, how can we complain? We need to have the desire to not just talk, but to do something. So I thought, okay. I was doing a Bible study at the time about following what God's telling you to do, and God kept nudging me, And I'm not talking about He didn't speak out of the skies. I'm saying He just kind of nudged my heart and said, why can't you do this? And the real answer for me was, I don't want to. I don't want to. And I thought that was pretty selfish. And I thought, well, I'll ask my husband, and he'll say no. He'll say, I don't want you doing that. You're going to be gone at night. And he said, I think you ought to do it. I could have fallen over. So I thought, okay, we'll just see what happens. And I was amazed when I threw my hat in the ring, the people that said, we would really like to support you. I didn't ask anybody to do anything. It just all came together. And I wish I could be this about everything in my life. Whatever happened, I was good with, because I felt like I had been obedient. And that was the important thing to me, is that I was obedient. And if I got elected, great. If I didn't, felt like that wasn't what God had for me.
It kind of takes the pressure off a little bit.
It takes, like I said, I wish I felt like that about everything. But instead, I have really, God, this is what I want. And I just keep pressing on that. But with this situation, it was a good lesson for me.
So the process, first the decision, what's the next thing that you do once you've decided?
Go get two people to say that you should do this. So I called my neighbor Leah Faulkner across the street. She said, I'll sign for you. Went by my husband's office, he signed me, go down to City Hall, pay $50, and the next thing, there you are in the paper running. You're like, how did that happen?
Oh, wow. Yeah. And then what?
Then there's a lot of work to be done. In terms of running a campaign, I had no experience whatsoever. But I teach young married Sunday school class at our church, and one of the girls there had majored in campaign finance and political things at University of Alabama. She said, I'll jump in and I'll help you run this campaign. Good friend of mine has got a degree in public relations. She said, I'll help you. And I mean, it was just amazing, the people that just came through and said, we'll help you do this, because I had no clue what I was doing. So the help, the support, the enthusiasm was tremendous.
Well, I know in major politics it takes a lot of money to run.
Yeah.
What about local politics? Did you have to raise a whole bunch of money? Was it very expensive?
It's more expensive than it should be. I think we raised about $30,000, and that seems like a lot of money on a local race. But we had one fundraiser, and from there we just moved forward with what we had. And that was a lovely event. It was a fun event on a beautiful night, and just kind of a good team rallying event as well. But it doesn't, it takes too much money. I mean, if you look on the national level, it just can make you sick how much money is spent. And when you think of the problems in the areas that we need money, I wish we had maybe some caps or something that we didn't have to spend so much.
Right. Money's always going to be an issue, and sometimes it seems like who has the most wins, but that's not always the case.
Not always the case, but it definitely does help.
So you took office in January, and I think that people always have a perception of what it's going to be like and how I'm going to be able to perform, and I'm going to get what I want done. Did your expectations meet your reality in the last few months?
Well, most people would probably respond as I will, yes and no. Did it meet my expectations? I had no clue how big the job would be. And I think that's true of any job. It's always easy to be critical of people, whether you're a nurse or a doctor, or a teacher, or a businessman, a banker. You say, well, that looks like an easy job. That probably don't even work half the time, But when you get into it, it's always much more overwhelming than you think. And this job is bigger than just having 2 meetings a month, that's for sure. I mean, I knew it would be more than that, but there's a lot of people to meet and talk with and listen to, and I love that. I'm a people person, so that comes easy for me. But there's a lot of hard stuff to think about, learn things to learn about, a lot of reading required. So in that respect, no. In another respect, the welcoming to City Hall was way beyond anything I would have thought. It was a lot of preparation, a lot of immediately after I was elected, can you be down here on a Friday night and a Saturday, and we're going to put you through orientation. Every department head is going to come in and spend an hour with you. And it was amazing. We have an amazing city manager. He is he works like crazy, and just a great guy, great work ethic, enthusiastic, loves his job, loves Paducah, and that is very contagious. So I would say the welcoming into and the desire to help you understand what they're doing has been amazing, really, really good.
Well, it sounds like you said, yes and no. It met your expectations. Throw a little curveball at you. What was your biggest surprise?
My biggest surprise? Well, that people really do want to work together. I think we sometimes think that, and it may be on other levels, adversarial, attacking one another, but it's not at all. It's everybody really trying to work together, trying to understand where the other person is coming from. It's kind of an angry world we live in right now. Everybody's mad about stuff. And that was one of the things I really did not want to be, is an angry, conservative Christian. I want to be compassionate and understanding, and I really sense that from everybody else as well. Everybody has a great respect for one another and listens to one another, and yeah, I get that. I understand where you're coming. We may not agree, but we at least appreciate the perspective that each commissioner, the mayor, the city manager, department heads, that they bring to the table.
So that's how you deal with the controversial issues then.
Right.
Is with trying to understand the other side.
Right, exactly.
And then making the best decision that you can make with the information that you have.
Yeah, I just have one set of life experiences and viewpoints, so it's really good to hear people from different perspectives and different life experiences, different age groups. That's very helpful.
When you were considering becoming a commissioner, I don't know if you did this or not, but I might think, what would be the things I would really like to see happen? Did you go through that process?
Oh yeah, most definitely. One of the things that really is my heartbeat, and I would really like to see our city do, and we're making those steps, is to really think about an overarching plan for our recreation facilities and our parks. I feel like the arts are really, really strong in Paducah, and I love that. I love the Four Rivers Market House. Guys, we're really, really strong in that area. But as we have put strength and resources that direction, I feel like some of our athletic complexes, our fields, we don't have an indoor pool, those things have kind of taken a back seat. And I think it's time for those things to come to the forefront. I think a lot of people that support those things have been patient, and they are ready now, and they want to see action in terms of our soccer fields are not good, our baseball and softball fields are not good. We don't have an indoor pool, and we've got some emerging great swimmers. So I would really like to see us, and we are moving that way, making the plans, figuring out how we can pay for it, what's going to be the best location, how are we going to work with the county. That is going to be, to me, one of the most important things we can do right now.
Commissioner Watkins was also recently on this show, and that was one of his priorities as well, as the athletic facilities, and he thought that was a really big factor in economic development.
Absolutely. When I was going around and meeting with businessmen, that's one thing they said, when we bring somebody in and try to lure them to Paducah, that's one thing they want to see, because there are a lot of times young families, and they want to see, where are your soccer fields? Well, those are not impressive. Where are your baseball fields? Those are not impressive. Where's your indoor pool? Well, we don't have that. So those things, when you're attracting business, you're attracting people. And we've got to beef those up if we're going to grow. I think it's really important, and that's what we're seeing in other areas as well.
And tourism,
yes,
as well. Recently in Sevierville and the Smokies, and they had just built this magnificent baseball softball complex.
Right.
And they're expecting thousands and thousands of people to come to their area with even worse traffic if you've ever been there. It's a
yes, it's awful. It's awful. But they obviously see that as another piece to bring people in, and I want that. I want it for our kids more than anything, and my grandkids. I want it for the people of Paducah. But it is a wonderful thing in terms of bringing people into the area to experience our community, buy meals at our restaurants, shop at our shops, get downtown, go to a show while you're here, stay in our hotels, fill them up even more. So yeah, I think it's a huge thing for tourism and exposing people to Paducah. There are a lot of people now that get to choose where they live because there's so many home-based businesses, and we're seeing a trend of young families preferring to go back to smaller communities. Shopping is not the lure it used to be because the young people all shop online.
Right.
So they are looking at smaller communities, and I think we're feeling some of that. I've noticed some of my children's classmates are coming back. My son is returning in June. I think they are starting to think this is a good-sized town. This has got a lot to offer here. If we can fix that recreation piece, I think we have a much stronger package to offer people and lure people with.
And that's important because our population has not grown.
Right.
In a lot of years.
Right.
And so this is one piece of the puzzle. So is plenty of recreational activities and facilities and things like that. What other goals
well, one
did
thing
you identify?
we're working on really hard is that we have a negative perception in terms of working with the city. That the city commission, our city manager, he is working really hard. We're trying to be the best city. People laugh about that. How are we going to be the best city in the world? Well, if we don't aim high, we're not going to be as high as we need to be. So we are really making a concerted effort to make it easy to work with the city. Right now there's a 2-question survey. I mean, you get a survey. If you go get a hamburger, they'll send you a survey about it. But we're trying to make it a simple 2-question survey in terms of what was your experience like? What do we need to know? So it's simple and we can get feedback. And we are getting good feedback right now. But I think if it's not an app, it will soon be an app. There'll be a kiosk in City Hall. So as you leave, you tell us what your experience is like. But there's going to be a grand unveiling of a whole new plan for customer service. We want it to be exceptional so that when people come to our city, they say, wow, now that was easy, that was pleasant. And that's something I think that's really, really important, and I think that's going to help with that economic growth as well.
And perceptions are, well, they say perceptions are reality.
Right.
I happen to live in the county, and several years ago there was a vote to merge the city and the county, and the people in the county, 70%, said we don't want to. So that has to be some kind of perception of it not being beneficial. And so how do you change that?
Yeah. I think one thing you do, and I'm so excited to see the mayor and the judge executive working together. They are making a concerted effort to work together, and the recreation facilities will definitely be something we will work together on. I think there is a concerted effort that we are stronger together. Do we need to merge? I don't know. I mean, you could argue that a lot of different ways, but like you said, we had a strong vote against it, so it seems silly to vote for that right now. But I think if we could start making those steps to do some things together, 911 is another issue that's going to come up, and we're going to be putting together some kind of way to deal with that together because it's very important. But that was a service that was supplied and funded by landline fees. Well, guess what? Who has a landline?
Right.
Not very many people anymore. So that huge bill is falling to the city and county instead of being separate and supported by that. So trying to figure that out, we're trying to do that together. And I think there's a lot of respect between the city and the county commissions, and there is that joint, we need to work together. We don't need to be at each other. We need to work together because let's face it, I live in the city, but I live in the county also.
Right.
I'm paying taxes to the county as well. And if you live in the county, this is your city. And your city where you're going to the Four Rivers Center, where you're going to eat, where you're going to shop, where you're going to the doctor, where you're going to enjoy the parks. So it is not us and them. It is all of us together.
And I say I live in Paducah.
Yeah,
I don't say I live in McCracken County.
Exactly. And most people do. Yeah, most people do.
Well, and then the question comes, all these things you're talking about are great. How do we pay for them?
Yeah, that's and we're in a pension crisis. It's going to be really interesting to see how we figure all this out because we have some big things in front of us. The state is requiring us to pay a lot more into the pension fund, even though we were doing everything we were supposed to do, and they were not.
Right.
They were robbing the fund, so that seems a bit unfair, and it's a very abrupt change. I mean, if you look at, there's an article we just saw recently about Louisville, you know, the things they're going to have to do to come up with $10 million that they got cut this year because of the pension crisis. So that's really hard. We've worked really hard at trimming extra things, not creating any new spending, cost. It's tough. It's really tough, but we're doing that. We're looking at what we can do to get by each year, and our city manager is very proactive at looking at those things. And we're in that process right now. So I don't know sure how that's all going to come out, but it's, we're going to have to deal with 911 in some way other than through the city and county budgets, because they're just, after these cuts, there's going to be cities that simply cannot do what the states ask them to do. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how every city, and maybe we can learn from each other what we can do. Maybe there can be more working together to provide services that we overlap, perhaps even.
Right. So ideally, one of the things other than raising taxes, which a lot of people just hate,
right,
is to attract business and industry here.
Exactly.
And so what do you think those businesses, are they looking for the same thing that you as a citizen is looking for, or do they look for other things that we can make better than we have?
Right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of businesses are looking at the things we mentioned that attract families, like the recreation facilities, like the size community we have. It's a nice size community to live in. Also, I think trying to keep the tax structure livable, so that we're not taxing people so much that they're starting to think about, where can I go to get away from this tax situation. That's really important. And being business friendly. We've got to be business friendly. We've got to work with PED, and they're in the process of looking for a new director. And I'm excited to see what they do, because the city very much wants to work with them. As a matter of fact, we have moved a position from one department into another to create a economic growth person who can be the contact person from the city. And that's pretty much a statement from us. This is very important, because the person that was in the other department had a job. There was a need there, but they were willing to slide this over and let this be a Paducah, economic growth person within the city. So there is a definite contact person, a person who's not only attracting, but going around and making sure our other businesses that we have feel like the city's supporting them well, and checking on them, because we don't want to just get you plopped down and then say, okay, now you're on your own.
So that's what I was going to ask. What is this position tasked to do?
Yeah, that's a lot of what they're going to do, is try to keep track of all the businesses, make frequent visits, make sure their needs are being met, listen to them, and then be a liaison to PED, to the county, as we work together to try to work hard to get businesses here, get them to look at us. And I think we're making some progress there, and I think this person will be a positive thing. A lot of cities have a whole team of these specialists, and we have had no one. So hopefully this will help us.
Well, every community is hoping to land the big corporation.
Right.
But we also have a really cool downtown.
We do.
So is that on your radar all the time too?
Oh, always. And we have Katie Axt, who's our downtown specialist, and trying desperately to keep businesses down there, keep them viable. And the festivals really help. We're talking about expanding Christmas down there with some kind of lighting festival. We have the Dickens of a Christmas, which is a huge thing, the superheroes thing, which is great. The Dogwood Trail goes right through downtown. City Hall beautification. City Hall is looking beautiful. So all those things hopefully will highlight the businesses down there. And the TIF project hopefully will bring more development down there, which will be very exciting, and that will also bring us some tax help as well, because we don't have that option of a local sales tax. This is kind of a way to get some of the state funds returned to us, and will help us improve the downtown infrastructure.
Before you were a city commissioner, and this one just popped into my head, there were several neighborhood revitalization programs, and the first was Lower Town, I believe, and then they went to Fountain Avenue. Are there more of those kind of things planned?
Yeah, I know we've talked about that. I don't know that we actually have identified a particular neighborhood to do that. Right now, I think the emphasis is kind of different projects in different neighborhoods. There's a lot of thought that maybe we need to do something on the south side of town, give them a boost, and I understand that. So there has not been, that I'm aware of, an identification of a specific neighborhood at this time.
And I just don't know, but what are the metrics of success of those kind of programs? I mean, I would assume that it would be that more people would move into the city and live there.
Right. I think I would challenge everybody to drive through Fountain Avenue right now. The city is just finishing a big sidewalk project. There are miles of sidewalk, and it's amazing. It's very impressive, the homes that have been redone, flipped, resold, the people that have invested in their own property there. It's pretty impressive. It really is. So I think those have had an effect. Lower Town, you know, originally was a lot of artists. There are not as many artists there, but there are a lot of people living there, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to walk through. I've walked a lot of this city during the campaign, and it is a beautiful city, and a lot of young families now are looking for walkable neighborhoods, and we're finding that I have a daughter who lived in Birmingham in a area where you thought these are probably $100,000 houses. No, they were $400,000 homes because they were walkable neighborhoods with little shops and places to grab a taco and dry cleaners right there. And that's kind of what they're looking for. And that's the kind of thing those neighborhoods provide. They can be walkable neighborhoods where they can go and walk to dinner, bike to dinner, you know.
Right, and one of the main priorities of any city administration, national administration, is safety. And my perception of Paducah is relatively safe.
Yeah, I think so too.
And so we have to have that, because if people are afraid to go out of their houses, then that destroys a whole lot of things.
Yeah, I had a young father when I was talking with him during the campaign. He said, you know, really, I just want the government to provide some good infrastructure for me and keep my family safe. That's what I want them to do. And I think people do feel safe in Paducah. You know, we have some things happen that are unfortunate, but we're blessed with a really strong police force and a fire force that I think, you know, does allow us to feel safe. I mean, I walk a lot. I'm a big walker, and almost every time I'm out, I see a policeman, you know, almost every time. And that's encouraging that they're just out watching out for us, you know, driving past our schools, you know, out at the mall, just their presence provides a strong sense of safety, and I appreciate that.
Right. We have just over a minute left, and I would like to give you the opportunity to say to the people anything you would like to say to them at this point.
I would just say we are blessed to live in a community that has so many strengths. I mean, we have great school systems here, we have great churches, we have beautiful natural resources, we've got some fun restaurants to enjoy and great arts and you know, activities, but more than anything, we are blessed with wonderful people. And that's what I love most about Paducah, are its people.
And you seem like a really good salesperson for our community.
I hope so. I hope so.
Thank you for joining me here
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. And thank you for joining us. This has been City Profile with City Commissioner Brenda McElroy. Join us again next time. I'm Tom Butler.